Dear students, let us discuss as part of data sources in this module on Indian census. We will discuss about how census is conducted, census schedules and changes in it over the period, and census publications. If we look at the history of census that is taking in India, the available literature pertaining to the history of census in India suggests that no extensive census enumeration were made in ancient India. The earliest Hindu literature, the Rig Veda, makes it clear that population was scanty and spread over wide areas in small villages. The Brahmana literature around 800 to 600 BC reveals that some of the villages had grown into towns and capitals with urban mode of life. The Buddhist literature indicates that between the 7th and 4th centuries BC, the economy of India was comparable to that of the later Middle Ages in Europe. In the 3rd century BC, the Ardhashastra of Kautilya prescribed the collection of population statistics as a measure of state policy for the purpose of taxation. In the 16th century, during the rule of Akbar, some population data were collected. The administrative report known as Ain-ki-Akbari included comprehensive data regarding population, industry, wealth and many other characteristics. India has a unique distinction of conducting an unbroken chain of regular decennial population census over the last 130 years. The first attempt to obtain the size of population in India by actually counting heads was made during 1867 to 1872. This count was not synchronous, nor did it cover the entire country. The first comprehensive census of population was conducted in 1881 on a uniform basis covering the whole country. The 1971 census was the 11th and marked the completion of 100 years of census taking in India. In 1972, the centenary of the Indian census was celebrated. The recent 2001 census represents the 14th census of India, and 2011 was the 15th in this order. Let us discuss about the organizational structure of census operations in India. Census in India taking has been the sole responsibility of the government from the beginning. Today, population census is a union subject and the Ministry of Home Affairs is in charge of undertaking the census task in the country. With the appointment of a nucleus of permanent staff at the center and in the states, there is now a permanent and continuing organization set up. A senior officer of the Indian Administrative Service with experience in the conduct of census operations is appointed as Registrar General and Census Commissioner and is responsible for conducting population census, registration of births and deaths, and for undertaking other connected studies and surveys. For each state and union territory, an officer designated as the Director of Census Operations is appointed, who is responsible for conducting the census in the state or union territory. In rural areas, primary school teachers, village patwaris and other village level officials, and in urban areas, teachers, clerks and other staff in local offices are generally appointed as census enumerators. The Census of India Act that came into force in 1948 empowers the central government to notify and conduct a census in the whole country or any part of it. It authorizes census enumerators to ask the prescribed census questions and legally compel all persons to answer these questions truthfully. It also guarantees that the information collected at any census from individuals shall be kept confidential, shall be used only for statistical purposes, and shall not be used as evidence even in a court of law. Let us devote time now to discuss about census schedules. Two types of questionnaires have been used in India for census taking, that is, the household schedules and individual slips. The household schedule was introduced in 1981 and it collects some information on the usual residents of the household, such as relationship to the head of household, sex, age, marital status, whether belonging to any scheduled caste or tribe, literacy status, and occupation. The core questionnaire in the Indian census is the individual slip, which consists of 23 items. The various items on which information was obtained at the population census since 1901 and be summarized below, and the various categories of information like the demographic and the social characteristics, under which name, relationship to the head of the household, sex, age, marital status, religion, caste or class, nationality, mother tongue, the languages which usually is used, the languages originally spoken in the household and other languages, and infirmities for currently married women, information on any children in the last 1 year, and for all ever married women, their age at marriage, number of children ever born, number of children surviving, age at marriage for males, and similarly in the case of educational characteristics, able to read and write under instructions, not under instruction but able to read and write, not under instruction and unable to read and write, learning, knowing, literate, literate or illiterate, foreign language known, known or does not know English, and similarly the items that are included in census schedules, whether literate in English, educational level, attending school or college. In the area of migration characteristics, issues like place of birth, born rural or urban, duration of residence, place of residence, last residence whether it is rural or urban, the reasons for migration, and in the area of economic characteristics, issues like principal occupation, subsidiary occupation, the dependency, that is means of subsistence of earner or worker on whom dependent, industry, class of worker, non-worker, seeking or available for work, travel to place of work, in these aspects like distance in kilometers, mode of transport, in the area of households engaged in cultivation or plantation, the information related to total number of area of land under cultivation or plantation, net area of irrigated land, tenure status of land under cultivation, and such other informations are collected. For the first time in the history of Indian census, information on age at marriage and any birth during the last 1 year for all currently married women was included in the 1971 census on a country-wise basis. In the 1981 census, information on age at marriage, number of children surviving by sex, and number of children ever born alive by sex was collected in respect of ever married women, and information on any birth during the last 1 year from currently married women were also asked. A question on fertility was asked in case of Bihar, Madhya Pradesh and Travancore Cochin in the 1951 census. In the 1941 census, data on total number of children born to married women and number of surviving along with women's age at birth of first child were collected. In the case of educational characteristics, information on literacy, that is ability to read and write, was collected regularly in all the censuses starting from 1872 to 1991. In the case of 1891, knowledge about foreign languages were asked and continued until 1931. Collection of data on educational attainment was started from 1941 census. The 1981 census also asked questions regarding attendance at school or college. In the 1981 census, the children in the age group 0 to 4 were considered as illiterates by definition. In the 1991 census, however, children of age 6 or less were considered as illiterates even if the child was going to school and might have picked up some reading and writing. In the 1991 census, a special form called postgraduate degree holders and technical personnel schedule was distributed to all the postgraduates and technical degree holders on behalf of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research to meet their needs for planning for technical and professional manpower. The form was designed in the form of the postage prepaid inland letter to be filled by the respondents concerned. The enumerator was asked to collect it back, failing which the respondent was requested to mail it. In the case of migration characteristics, with a view to studying the pattern of migration, a question on place of birth was included in all census questionnaires from 1881 onwards. The scope of the item was further enlarged in 1961 by adding 2 questions, namely whether born in a village or town and duration of residence if born elsewhere. In order to obtain the volume of internal migration, the 1971 census collected additional information on the place of last residence and duration of stay at the place of enumeration. Information on reasons for migration were collected in the 1981 and 1991 census onwards. Economic characteristics like the information on economic activity was collected from 1872 census onwards. In the census of 1872 and 1881, the occupation of persons who did work was collected. In the 1891 census, data on occupation or means of subsistence of workers along with those dependent on them were collected. A separate category of the means of subsistence of dependents on actual workers was collected from the 1901 census, but was discontinued in the 1961 census. Information on subsidiary occupation was collected from the 1901 census onwards. It was observed that the concept of dependency adopted in earlier census had a tendency to underestimate certain category of workers, mainly women engaged in agriculture and traditional cottage industry and services. The income concept was dropped after the 1951 census. In the 1961 census, economic data was collected on work concept, which continued in the 1971 census also. Data on non-workers were made available in the 1961 and 1971 census. In the 1981 census, it was considered desirable to obtain as detailed a profile of the working characteristics of the population as possible without losing the possibility of some comparability with the 1961 and 1971 results. Also, it was considered that in the context of the Indian situation, the enquiry relating to the current status of worker was rather irrelevant and that usual status was more appropriate. Another concern was to obtain figures of participation of women and children in as accurate manner as possible. With these objectives in view, the questions were formulated to find out whether a person had worked at any time during the last year or not, and if yes, whether the person has worked for more than 6 months or less than 6 months. Questions were also asked for those who reported as non-workers or marginal workers, whether they were seeking or were available for work. However, the question on seeking or available for work was asked in the 1991 census only in respect of non-workers and not for marginal workers as it was done in the 1981 census. Further, in case of those seeking or available for work, a question on whether they had ever worked before was asked. This helps in knowing the number of fresh entrants to the labor force. Let us discuss about enumeration. The canvasser method has been adopted in all the censuses for the collection of data by eliciting information from the head of the household through an interviewer designated as enumerator. Where the procedures for enumeration are affected by the type of population count to be obtained, the census may be designed to count persons where they are found on the census day, that is a de facto count, or according to their place of usual residence, that is a de jure count. Up to 1931, the de facto method of census enumeration was used. For the 1941 census, the enumeration was made on the de jure basis, but it was a non-simultaneous enumeration, which moreover was not complete. For the 1951 census, the de jure approach was used, and for the 1961, 1971, 1981, 1991 and 2001 census, the extended de jure or normal place of residence approach was used. On an average, an enumerator has to canvass the schedules for about 600 to 750 people. A supervisor is appointed for every 5 enumerators. Reserve supervisors and enumerators are kept in readiness throughout the census operations. The total number of enumerators and supervisors who carried out the 1991 census was about 1.7 million. Intensive training, including practical training, was imparted to this large number of field workers. The honoraria per enumerator and supervisors was rupees 100 for house listing and rupees 225 for the main census enumerations. In the case of tabulation, the major issue of analyzing the data is important to understand. The processing and tabulation of the data collected prior to the 1941 census were carried out by the method of attraction by strokes or ticks. In the 1941 and subsequent census, an innovation was made in the method of tabulation, whereby processing was done by manually sorting it out through individual slips. A beginning was made for partial mechanization of census data when the household economic tables of 1961 census were processed on the conventional unit record system. From the 1971 census onwards, electronic computers have been used in the tabulation of data, and the primary census abstracts at the district level for the 1991 census and some of the data for 2001 census are now available on floppy diskettes also. It should be specified here that some of the data like population size by sex, population aged 0 to 6 years, literacy status, etc. are made available right up to the village level. However, data available at the district levels are age sex distribution, marital status, educational status, religion of the head of the households, scheduled caste and scheduled tribe status of the households head, occupational pattern, industrial classification of the labor force, fertility, current fertility, that is births to the currently married woman in the past 1 year period prior to the census, as well as cohort fertility, that is number of children ever born to the ever married woman. Infant and child mortality is indirectly estimated through children ever born and children surviving data. In-migration status, various households and community amenities such as health facility, post office, banks, schools, electricity, water, sanitation, road connectivity, transport facilities, etc. Housing conditions, both type of house as well as number of rooms in the house. Let us discuss about the publications of the census data. The findings of the Indian census are obtained in a number of census publications. The district census handbooks, which were introduced in 1951 census, contains among other things, the primary census data down to the village level pertaining to each district. The coverage was further enlarged in the 1961 and 1971 census. They give information on historical backgrounds, physical features, state of agriculture, industry, education, etc. The census tables relating to general population, economic tables, the social and cultural tables including age, sex, marital status, mother tongue, religion, SC/ST population, migration tables and housing tables pertaining to districts and wherever possible down to tehsil level are produced. What are the various uses of census? It may thus be said that the modern census evolved gradually, beginning with the narrow objectives of determining military, tax and labor obligations. Census have come long way and their scope has been widened not only to meet administrative needs, but also on the needs of businesses, labor education and academic research. Over a time, improvements in administrative experiences and technology have yielded higher standards of completeness, accuracy and simultaneity in the census over time. Gradually, people began to appreciate the importance of census and they had less hesitation in answering the questions asked during census operations, for they were convinced that the information given would be kept secret and would be used only for statistical purposes. By the middle of the 19th century, census operations had come to stay in almost all European countries. After the Second World War, the importance of population data was realized to a great extent. The United Nations began to assist several developing countries in various ways in the conduct of census operations. As a result, census taking became more scientific and several developing countries established permanent organizations for the purposes of census. Inclusion of new questionnaires in the census provides a good database for the newer problems that are confronting the society and state. In conclusion, we need to understand that census is an important source of data not only on population, but also on various vital issues related to the economics of the country and the vital events that exist for the family, individuals and society, the various socio-economic aspects of individuals and the households and for the community at large, the extent of infrastructural facilities available, and by having a regular decennial censuses, it is very important to have an understanding about how the population dynamics occurs over a period of time and the extent of the response of the people in improving their living conditions are very well reflected when we look at the data and over a period of time. And in that way, the census data is very important and vital for the planning, not only for planning for the programs and schemes, but also to assess the changes in their quality of life over a period of time. And in that context, the census contributes as an important data sources, and in Indian context, it is very important for us to know that the level of accuracy of the data on collecting scientific lines and also reducing the time lag that exists between the information that is provided and the analysis that takes place, and also the reports that are brought out as over a period of time, we are reasonably in a positive way, we are able to reduce the gap, and in that process and the levels in which the data is analyzed, whether it is at a tehsil level or at a district level or a state level, and the type of information that is captured over a period of time, all have changed over a period of time, and in this process we are able to say that Indian census play an important role in the planning and also programs and schemes implementation, and to assess the type of change that exists not only for the people who are living in different areas of the society, but also the response of the government and other stakeholders in addressing the various issues of the population are empirically validated, and in that way the whole planning and the process of programs implementation highly rests on the sections of the society, and in that way the census contributes a lot in understanding and also is a major data sources for the government and other stakeholders. To that extent, census is a very vital source of data, and it is ultimately the users who are increasingly coming up from various disciplines, and also not only from a research angle, it is also for the program planning and implementation angle. Such things are very important, and to that extent the census officials play an important role for capturing that information at regular points of time and analyzing that information and presenting through various reports and records is very important. In that context, when we talk about India's development, the data sources like census is a very important source, and it will continue to play an important role in future also, because unless the data which captures the empirical way of various aspects are there, it is very easy for us to see how the extent of change that is taking place in the society, and also the changes in the quality of life of the people will also be captured, so that it is a very important way of understanding the societal responses.